And good evening, everyone. Mr. Velez, how are you, sir?
I'm good. Hi there. Hi, Manny. How you doing today?
Good, very good. Thanks for being with me tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We have a guest. He's a candidate for Brownsville's City Commission for District Number 4. Is that correct?
That is correct, Manny. Thank you. Thanks for the invitation. Thanks.
No, you're very welcome. Mr. Alberto, nicknamed Beto Velez.
Exactly.
And he's here to talk with us. We're going to get to know him a little bit. If you have any questions or comments, as usual, just place them on the side. We will get to them. We'll put some comments up, as we go along. I will display your questions, but we're not going to answer them, not necessarily right away. We'll see how the back and forth goes. But we'll definitely try to get to a bunch of your questions. If you have any towards the end of the show, we'll start going through them. So everyone, please be patient. We see your comment. I'll see your question, and I promise that we'll try to get to it.
All right.
We'll have to give it a few seconds, a few minutes for some people to filter in. I guess we can start off with, let's move up here. Give you that welcome there. And tell us, sir, who is Mr. Alberto Velez? Give us a bit of your little bio and how you got here up until right now.
Well, just a couple of days ago, I posted a website, albertvelez.com, and it's basically my campaign website with a lot of information about myself. And I start with my birth year. I was born in 78, right here in Brownsville, at the Brownsville Medical Center, and I grew up in Brownsville. Both my mom and dad, they both worked here. Part of my childhood, I spent it at Matamoros. I actually attended elementary and middle school across, and I was the opposite of a lot of kids whose parents live in the border and live in Matamoros, work in Brownsville, go back and forth. I would actually spend my weekends and my summers in Brownsville.
Okay.
And my dad was a taxi driver, so I became very familiar with Brownsville. He worked for Brownsville Taxi Company back when I was a kid, and then he worked also for Yellow Cab up until, I guess, just before he died. He died back in 95. My mother worked at Model Laundry, which sadly was just recently completely demolished. It's gone.
Oh.
She worked there for over 20, 23, 24 years. My grandmother worked there too. And I officially started attending school here in Brownsville at Pace High School. Graduated in 97. Then went on to UTB and got myself a degree in business. Along the way, I did different things, different jobs here and there. And I worked at H&R Blog. I started my background in income taxes, something that I am passionate about. And I also worked at A&B Lopez Supermarket on International. I worked at the university as a work study, a couple of jobs here and there. Then towards the end of my degree, I worked at International Bank of Commerce, IBC Bank, for a couple of years. After that, I had other jobs. I worked for the city of San Benito. It was a temporary project, lasted a few months. And then landed with Frank Costilla. I worked for Frank Costilla at the law office, and I handled the primary elections for the Democratic Party at the time for Cameron.
Okay.
And I'm currently at Porter High School, been there since 2006, but I started with BISD back in 04. So with Brownsville Independent School District, I've been for the past 17 years, 15 of them at Porter. I am a high school teacher. I teach business education. Been doing that ever since I started. It's the only school that I have worked for in BISD. I've done a lot of things in, I guess, out in the community.
Mhm.
I've been part of Leadership Brownsville. I was class 18. I've served as a board member for a few years. I've also been part of, back then, the now extinct UTB TAC Alumni Association. And, excuse me, and I also was part of the Transit Advisory Committee for the City of Brownsville, something that I was very interested about. I grew up basically in a taxi, almost, and I knew the industry back then with my dad. I understood like everything from kind of getting the permit and getting the license and getting the insurance and understanding the routes and understanding how the taxi industry worked back then in Brownsville. And even though I was a kid, I was very, I guess, passionate about it, just along with my dad. I was with my dad riding the taxi when I was a kid. And my summers were being with him. Going around Brownsville, taking customers left and right. And that's how I became very familiar with the city, very familiar, especially with downtown. So at this point, this is my second time I run for city commissioner.
Mhm.
I ran back in 2009. I did not make it to the runoff.
Yeah.
Dr. Gowan was, she made it to the runoff with Mr. Ayala, and between them two, she got elected. She's been in office ever since.
Yeah.
And I like Brownsville. I love Brownsville so much that I want to give back from all the good things I've gotten. Even though I lost my dad at a young age, I was 16 years old. I've been able to do good, to succeed, to have a family, to have a nice job, and I see that our city it's growing. I have 4 kids, and I have 2 little ones, and I want them to have a better city, and I want them to stay in Brownsville, not to stay next to me, but I don't want them to leave Brownsville because they don't like where they live or where they come from. I want them to feel the same love and passion I have for the city. And as the city gets bigger and we are getting more attention right now, we're basically at the center point of something big happening, and the whole world is looking at us now. And that really excites me. And I see good things coming for us.
And so having said what you just said, excuse me, that was one of our questions. And I guess it's a good segue to go to that first question is, what is your view on term limits? And that's been kind of a hot topic lately.
Mm-hmm.
And that came up recently. And you mentioned Ms. Rose Gowan, who's been there, ever since she got elected. What are your thoughts on term limits?
Well, it's one of those things that depends on how you see it. If you have a good person leading, you want to keep them as long as you can, right? It happens to us in education. There's principals that run a school for 10, 15, 18 years. They've been doing a good job. They know how to do it. And a lot of times it's happened where you try to fix something that is not broken and you end up breaking it.
Yeah.
It is kind of unfair to speak generally. Now, when there's a commissioner or there's a principal or a leader that is not doing a good job, you're trying to find a way to replace that person.
Yeah.
And the nicest and the most ethical and legal way to do it. And setting term limits is one way of doing that. But you're also going to impact those that are doing a good job. You're going to cripple someone that started a project and might not get to finish it. Projects sometimes don't take a year or two. It can take 5, 6, 10 years. And those limits may cut you off halfway through the project. So it's good. because you also want to bring in new blood. You want to bring in new people with new energy to do new things. But at the same time, there's problems because when a project is halfway there and you bring new people on board, sometimes they just want to stop whatever was happening and
Yeah.
start. Money, resources, time is wasted when that happens. And that's the unfortunate consequence of setting term limits.
Yeah, one way of thinking is that, well, we don't need to necessarily have term limits because the voters can vote and not vote for that incumbent and get them out if that person's not doing a good job.
Of course.
The problem is not everyone comes out to vote. It's a very low kind of voter turnout, so that person who may sit there in office for quite some time. So you would like to think you'd get enough of a turnout where if people were not happy with someone, they would just come out and vote them out. But since that doesn't happen all the time, I think that's why they were introducing the term limits. So, but yes, I do understand. On a national level, I was very much for, not so much for term limits, because on a national level, there is so much red tape and paperwork. These things, laws and just things don't happen fast in Washington. They take a very long time. So to have a short term limit there I don't feel so productive. Might be counterproductive. But on a local level, I think it's a lot easier to, keep it moving, bring some new ideas in. Again, if the in this case, commissioner is doing a great job, everyone's happy with them, they'll keep voting him in. If they're not happy, hopefully they'll vote him out. So I do understand that. A couple of comments. Downtown is part of downtown in District 4. Is that correct?
Yes, most of downtown from 13th Street west. Pretty much all of that is included. From 13th Street and east, which is like on International, and from that on, it's another district. So
Elizabeth says that downtown part of District 4 needs jobs and clean up transvestites. By transvestites, I'm pretty sure she's speaking of the late night activities that go on out in the street there. And it would be nice to clean a lot of. I know that's a touchy issue also, but some have safety concerns. Yep.
Yeah, I completely understand both Elizabeth and Rosie. Downtown has been known since I was a kid for not being the safest, and a lot of, I guess, this prostitution activity going on. I can say that it has changed a lot. It's gotten better over the years, meaning not so much, I guess, the prostitution and all these problems still is, but not as it was maybe 20 years ago. Still work to do. Still not super safe to walk in the middle of downtown at 10 or 11 at night.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate. Now I think that's kind of a problem of most cities around the country. I've been in Houston, and sometimes after 8 or 9, you don't feel so safe in the downtown area or other cities. So we can do better, I'm sure. Can it be perfect? I doubt it, but we can try. We can try better and make our downtown safer and attract more of our own. Because a lot of times it's the outsiders that know more about our treasures than ourselves. And we end up becoming tourists in our own town sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally understand that. Linda Lopez says term limits allow for other citizens such as yourself and others to run and see city issues with fresh eyes. And that's the good thing about term limits, is that regardless of, I don't know, let's say it's 2 terms, before letting somebody get into a bad habit or not doing anything or business as usual, like they say, is let's freshen it up every couple of years, every 4 years, or every second term, every other term, and just keep fresh people there and fresh eyes and fresh ideas. That's an excellent idea. So Is there something in particular that you would like to accomplish while serving, if you were to get elected while serving on the city commission? Do you have a goal in mind or something in particular that you would like to accomplish?
One of the main things that I would like as a citizen, even whether I get elected or not, but I want to change Brownsville's, I guess, reputation, and I want to see Brownsville becoming a better place, a place where we just not emphasize the negative stuff all the time. There's so much negativity going on that it's hard to bring people down. And for us to believe that we can do better and that we are better.
Yeah.
I have seen so many things. Going back to my childhood, I grew up in a taxi cab, and my dad had customers all the time, and I remember clearly taking customers down to the bus station, taking customers down to the airport, and I wish my dad was here to see that we have this amazing bus station, nothing to what we had before when I was a kid. And I happened to go to the inauguration of the new airport, and it's exciting. I love it, and we're far from what many people dream, but we are way better than we were 15, 20 years ago. And what we had 15, 20 years ago lasted for over 50, over 60, some cases even 100 years.
Yeah.
So I think we're moving in the right direction, and I think we can do better in the transportation area. I think we can do better in tourism, and we can promote ourselves as a better city, a place to visit, a place to come and have fun and enjoy new experiences that they haven't experienced in other locations. That's what we look for when we go visit other locations. I mean,
Yeah.
in your industry, you do this all the time. You visit a new place, and you want to go see those touristic places.
Yep.
And we have some. We just don't promote them as much, and we don't believe that they can be promoted.
Yeah.
And we're wasting resources, we're losing money, and we're not making our city shine.
Do you believe that overall, that the administration, the leaders of Brownsville are as corrupt as some would say they are? And would you say it's that bad and rampant? Money's missing, money is unaccounted for, things don't happen all the time. Would you say that's a problem?
Let me get this straight. Repeat the question. Let me speak.
Would you agree with some that would say that the city, some of the officials or some of the processes, for example, handing out permits, applying for permits, or money that comes in by investments and millions of dollars that come in and get redirected to who knows where? Would you say that's due to corruption? Is it corrupt here in Brownsville, as some would say that it is?
I have a background in business, and I have a background in accounting. And I find it sometimes difficult when they say this type of accusations. Corruption, it's real. It does happen. I cannot blame or point any fingers at anybody, but I will be willing to sit down and go through audits.
Mm.
Our city has to go through an audit process, and there has to be an independent audit every year. And I think the citizens, everybody, not just the commissioner, but every citizen of Brownsville should have the right to look at the results of those audits, to see how we're handling the finances of the city, to see what happens with the revenue that is coming in from taxes, from grants, from federal money, and see where the money is going. Is it going towards infrastructure? Is it going towards salaries, towards benefits, towards advertising? Where is the money going? And not just go out there and complain and say that someone is stealing money, because a lot of times we don't know. We don't know really what's going on. Maybe we think somebody's pocketing that money.
Hmm.
And maybe they are, but if they are, then, and if someone has some type of evidence, they need to bring it forward and speak to the police department. Get the DA involved. If someone needs to go to jail, they need to go to jail.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of holding people accountable and keeping track of things. And I think a better job has to be done regarding that. Now, again, now we segue into the situation where Elon Musk recently announced he was going to donate $20 million to Cameron County, to the Cameron County education system, and $10 million in an effort to beautify downtown Brownsville.
Yes.
So a lot of this has brought out a lot of feelings, and people are still, I say the word I use is cynical, and corruption keeps coming up, and they're not going to see the money. Not everyone is going to see the money, or the money is only for the commissioners and, you know, the officials that own businesses downtown, and that's what it's for. Seems to be some kind of conspiracy, they believe, between Mr. Elon Musk and commissioners and people who own any businesses or land downtown. I don't see it that way. I think this announcement was made very public globally. I think the world knows what's happening here now.
50 million followers of Elon Musk.
Yeah, and that's around the world, not just Texas, not just the United States. So your thoughts on that? I mean, are you any bit cynical or skeptical as to this process? I'm not. Like I said, I've said this before a few days ago. I choose to see the glass as half full, not half empty, and there's a big difference there. And you know, your thoughts on this donation?
Manny, it is a significant donation, and I'm really excited about this. It sounds like a lot of money. I mean, $30 million, it is a lot of money. But let me tell you, in education, $20 million is really not a lot of money.
Yeah.
Last I remember, I worked at Porter High School. I think just to run Porter alone, including salaries for everyone on campus, I think it's close to, if not over, $20 million a year. Our school district is running on a $500 million budget a year. So $20 million, it is a significant amount, but it's not a lot when it comes to education. And to spread that out, a lot of people I have been reading, they're saying, well, this 10 school districts, how is this going to work out? Whatever way it works out, I think probably the superintendents of the school districts or someone at a higher level needs to get involved and establish some guidelines as to who's going to get the money and what is going to be the purpose of the money.
Yeah.
The school districts are not new to this. They apply for grants, and grants are designated for specific purposes, whether it's a field trip, a salary, stipend, equipment, student meals, you name it. It can be broken down very specifically. And when it comes to downtown, well, that's where the city and the city commissioners and maybe a committee needs to be formed of regular citizens and come up with ideas, especially those that live in the historic part of Brownsville and the downtown area, because not everything it's about businesses. There's also residencies, that people that still live in the downtown area, and they can either get benefit or impacted by what is happening in downtown.
Yeah.
So, and honestly, as much as I love Brownsville, and I really admire all those investors that are going and setting up these restaurants and these places in downtown, because it is expensive. These are old buildings, and to bring them up to code, it's pricey. And to get them looking the way they are, let me tell you, they're spending a fortune, and a lot of times even more money than going to the, I guess, the newer parts of town where there's new buildings that are up to code with everything, and where they don't have to invest additional funding.
Mhm.
So if this money can come in and potentially maybe the city can set an amount aside and offer a subsidy for future businesses to come downtown. Probably promote some type of incentive for the existing customers, the existing businesses that are downtown. There's so many things that can be done with that amount of money. It's not going to last forever.
Yep.
So
And yeah, and in the large scope of things, $10 million is not a lot of money. Things are, I mean, this is meant to beautify Brownsville. It's meant to beautify downtown because there is going to be there's an obvious push by Mr. Elon Musk to bring outsiders to come and live here.
of course,
And people like to see nice things when they're going to have to live somewhere. They want to see a nice downtown area. They want to see clean streets. They want to see sidewalks and trees and things that look good to the eye.
of course.
So some of the critics and the skeptics are pushing to redirect some of this money into infrastructure projects, but that's not his purpose, and I don't think it's his responsibility. Again, if they wanted to work something like that into his initial contract with the city, whatever that was for SpaceX, they should have done so at the time.
Mhm.
But I don't see this as his responsibility. He's got a reason why he wants to beautify downtown, and that was made public by the other tweet. He's inviting people to come and live, come down this way, whether it's his spaceport city or town or the city of Brownsville. And so that brings up, you mentioned building and the cost of fixing and rehabbing. Part of that cost is permits. And, it's not so easy to get a permit. And when you do get them, they're expensive.
Uh-huh.
And, both legally and under the table expensive. So do you see that permitting as a problem? And what do you think could be done to streamline that whole process to make it easier for someone who wants to fix, or for that matter, someone who wants to come and start a business and, not have to spend an arm and a leg and wait many months before he gets a permit issued?
It's something that we need to address very quickly, because at times it almost feels like, so we have this reputation. So before getting SpaceX in our backyard and being in the spotlight, right? We were known for being the poorest part of the country.
Yep.
Right. And as poor as we are, we have all these entrepreneurs out there that they want to do better for themselves and potentially create jobs. But we don't push them to get started. We're holding them back. And we're making them spend the money that they had to take off and paying rent while the business is closed. And
Yeah.
paying advertisement to create this excitement and momentum so that when they open their doors, they have customers already coming in. But the permits are taking too long. I think that the process needs to be revisited, where if businesses are willing to create jobs, to operate and offer a safe environment and a safe product for themselves, for the employees, and for the customers, they should be allowed to start operating under certain, restrictions, with some, exemptions that they will need to comply.
Yeah.
And in a matter of weeks or months, but they can start already generating revenue, not only for themselves, but for the city and sales taxes, and that they can start creating jobs, and that they can start working together to fight poverty in our city and Cameron County and the Rio Grande Valley. So we can fight that negative reputation we have about being the poorest part of the country. So we don't. It's like we don't see entrepreneurs and small business owners as friends of the city. We see them as enemies, and
Right.
that's just really not right. That's devastating for anyone that wants to come from the outside and they expect a nice welcome.
Yeah.
And what they get is a list of requirements and a bunch of red tape that is going to make them go somewhere else. And some do.
And not even from the outside. We have people from here that want to open business, and they even find it difficult. So that's why I said, and I'm sure others have agreed with me, this is a very unfriendly for small to medium business who, has to worry about how much they're going to spend to open up, to build. So since we're on that topic, one quick question, your opinion of downtown. Is it a mess? What does it need? What would you do to change something? Again, speaking of improving, beautifying, downtown Brownsville, what's something that you would like to see done there?
Well, I think one of the biggest challenges for downtown, for anyone that wants to open a business in downtown, it's obviously parking. And it's hard to have a business and only have a couple of parking spots. So downtown was, and I'm saying it was because before the pandemic, downtown was the place to go to the dollar stores. And the people from Matamoros, basically that's what they would do. They will come over and shop around the downtown area, go to HEB, which is gone.
Yeah.
They will come down to the multiple different stores that would offer almost anything you would imagine. It's available at a very affordable price. And all of a sudden, any kind of, I guess, nice store. I remember growing up, and there was really nice stores downtown. And then all of a sudden, they just disappeared. They vanished, and we became that main street for Chinese products at a very affordable price. And so people from Brownsville basically avoided downtown. It was just the street for people from Matamoros to come over and shop. So the pandemic has brought a lot of bad, but also it's bringing us a new opportunity to revamp downtown, to make it possibly the downtown that a lot of people are thinking about, the place where there is restaurants, some good areas to have dinner with the family, dinner with the friends, hear some good live music. And there's people from all spectrums of life, and there might be one spot for them in the downtown area. And I guess one of the things that I would like to see is, number one, potentially come up with a way to make downtown safer at night, where you can park 4 or 5 blocks away and walk to anywhere and feel safe by doing that. If you're by yourself, or you're with your husband or wife or your significant other, and you don't have to be afraid of getting, I guess, hit by someone that wants to take your wallet, take your purse.
And how would you do that? I mean, just one example. Is it more police? Is it? I know they're putting cameras up there. Is it more cameras, or what? What do you think would be a good solution, or first step anyway?
First step, well, number one will be cameras. I think cameras can be part of the solution. Maybe with this $10 million grant that we're getting, or this donation that we're getting, it could be one of those projects where we can have more cameras added to the downtown area, where we can probably have a couple of kiosks at different corners of downtown, and have cops there. Probably it is going to take time to clean it up, to get that feeling of feeling safe. And once we get it, I think we can probably scale down a little bit, but at the beginning, it's going to take a lot of time and effort and resources to clean it up, to make it a better place. I think it's going to take a while for downtown to go back to what it was just a few months before the pandemic. The people we don't know when the border is going to open, and even when it opens, a lot of the people from Matamoros, they already know that a lot of the places in downtown are gone, and some of them may not come back.
Yeah.
What we're seeing now is Dollar Tree making a killing in our city now. There's franchises opening in almost every corner of Brownsville.
Yeah.
And in a way, it might be a good thing, because that is going to open up those spaces in downtown. And we're going to probably attract the new audience that we want to attract. And I do see downtown. I have really good memories in downtown. I grew up in downtown. My dad had an office. The Brownsville taxi office was right there on Washington, where where Parra is located now. Yellow Cap was on Jefferson, right by Immaculate. I used to walk downtown to my uncle's house in La Muralla by myself. I was a little 10, 11-year-old, and I had no problems walking downtown and going over to La Muralla and coming back, going by myself to restaurants in downtown. I used to go to Lucio's a lot with my dad. I loved it. I loved it there. And it's difficult to go back to that, but I know we can get something better.
Yep.
Modern, keeping that historical aspect of it, and make it safer. And look at possibilities of adding parking, because that is one of the biggest challenge. If you want to open up a restaurant or any kind of business downtown, and you only have 2 parking spots, it's difficult. It's difficult to bring customers in.
Yeah, that does make someone think twice. Hey, we can go downtown. Oh man, there's no parking. I don't even want to bother. And they
But guess what? We have a parking garage that is probably not being used.
Yeah, I heard it's not being used at all.
So we can come up with something to offer transportation from the parking garage and create little routes. I don't know, carts or something to that effect, that can create a mini route in the downtown area and take people over to the different locations, or at least to specific locations that are closer to where they're going.
Yeah, or just a free small route. You can go and keep going in the same cycle.
Something to that effect, something like that.
Make frequent stops, and you start and end at the parking garage.
Exactly. It's safer, it's comfortable, and it's a win-win, because we can use the parking garage for one. People don't have to be walking, feeling unsafe. We're creating jobs, because we're going to need people to run that transportation shuttle. So there's several options that can be considered, and I think it can work. And we have the resources there. We're just not taking advantage of them.
Agreed. Definitely agreed. What would you consider to be one of the most compelling issues, one of the most important issues that Brownsville is facing right now? Whether it's the pandemic, health issues, or is it lack of economic development? What do you see as something that stands out to you as very compelling or important?
Well, number one, I think our city, we have too many enemies of our own. The people in Brownsville, a lot of them don't believe that Brownsville can do better, and they ignore a lot of the great things we have in our city. So I think the city needs to, we need to spend some money in really, really promoting ourselves, and telling not the world, ourselves, how good we are,
Yeah.
and how greater we can be if we believe that we are that good. A lot of people go out there, and I venture to say that probably 50% or more don't don't invite people to come to Brownsville or to move down to Brownsville. And a lot of people that move out to San Antonio, and they're like, "Wow, it's the greatest thing. I regret not doing it earlier. You should come over."
Mm.
So I think we need to start working on changing the image of Brownsville, and promoting yourselves as a place to visit. Um, a lot of people talk about how great McAllen is, and I really don't want us to be another McAllen. I think we have more and better than McAllen, and if we start promoting it and we start believing it, we are going to be uh, not better in comparing apples to apples. We're going to be better, and we are better in different areas. We have our strengths, and we have things that they don't have, and they can never have. They don't have access to a beach. They don't have access to a port. They're not next to the border like we are. And of course, all of these great things have strengths and weaknesses, offer opportunities and threats. Not everything is great, but we need to really work with what is good and make it better. And I think our city really has a lot of potential. And the commissioners are the face of the city. I'm a teacher, and wherever I go, I go to Walmart, I go to HEB, and my students and former students see me. Even though I'm in my regular clothes, all they see Mr. Velez from Porter.
Yeah.
And commissioners, 24/7, and even after your term is over, people still recognize you as Commissioner so and so,
Right.
and you become the face of the city. So the city commissioner, or the city commissioners, have the duty of promoting the city, and wherever they go, really make sure that they invite people over. Come and visit us. Come and check what's going on in Brownsville. There's good things happening in Brownsville, and it's getting better.
Yep.
Go see what's happening now, and come back in a couple of months, in a few years, and you're going to see that it's even going to be bigger and better. So I think the image of Brownsville, it's my number one priority. It's not going to happen overnight, but if we don't start working on it, it's never going to happen. And the negativity is just going to be surrounding us forever and ever. And Elon Musk could have donated $1 billion. And there's someone out there that's still going to believe that Brownsville is not going to be any better.
Yes. Good point. Let's say you win your election, you're in the city commission, and they say, Beto, here's $1 million, a grant. You can do whatever you want to do with it. What would you do with that? I know it's not $1 billion, but what would you do with $1 million, to do whatever you wanted to do within the city?
Well, I think that people, in general terms, deserve to live in a decent home. And I will try to help people out, improve their homes. There's people that live in houses here in Brownsville that we live in one of the richest countries in the world, one of the most powerful nations in the whole world. And right here in our hometown, we have some of our citizens that were born and raised right here that live in some really bad conditions. And I think we need to come up with with a plan, with a program, what we can help them. And $1 million might not be a lot of money, but let me tell you, if one of those individuals could get a $10,000 or $15,000 grant from that money and make some improvements to their property, they can have a better quality of life.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I said, yeah, I know it's not a lot of money. It sounds like a lot, but it really isn't when you're talking about a city of 185,000 people.
It's all about trying to improve people's life. And if it can be utilized for that, I'm all for it. It's something, my mother, she was a recipient of a house by a grant, and she lives very happy, very comfortable. And I'm so grateful that a program like this was around. I didn't do anything different. I don't have any connections. It didn't happen overnight, but let me tell you, it was a blessing. And I'm so glad that my mom was able to live is able to live in a decent house right now, right here in the city. And that's one of the things that's why I'm so grateful to Brownsville, because we've been blessed in many ways. I come from a low-income family, and I was able to go to college without spending a penny. So, and I was blessed that I had the university a few blocks away. I could almost walk to school.
Yeah.
Where in other cities, McAllen, for example, they don't have a university. It's in Edinburgh.
Yep.
So we are very fortunate and very blessed, and we need to look at ways to help each other, to do things better, and to promote our city as a great place, not as a bad place, because some of us are incredibly blessed, and I think that almost everybody could be as blessed. It's just a matter of moving forward, knocking doors, looking for someone to give you that hand that will pull you and help you and find what you're needing.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, I mean, people don't speak the language, or they have some type of disability, but maybe they know someone, or they have a family, or they have a neighbor that can help them out. And a lot of times people don't know where to go. I didn't know where to go, but I knocked on doors. Eventually I found a social worker, and that social worker led me to another social worker, and eventually I arrived with the right person. I do that all the time because I try to help people. Whenever they ask me for something and I don't know the answer, I try to look it up, or I try to pick up the phone and call someone that knows about it.
Right.
So I think the city commissioners don't have the answer for everything, but maybe in that position it's easier to pick up the phone and find out where can you go, who can you talk to.
Yep.
That will give you that help that you're needing. So that's my stand on this, Manny. I truly believe in helping people.
Very good. So one concern with residents is they will bow down to certain entities or people with money to make decisions that are probably not the best for the residents, but may be better for some businesses or investors. Are you okay with standing up and saying, no, that's not right? I don't care how much money you have. Are you going to make that tough decision either with the residents or against them? Sometimes you're going to have to make a decision that your constituents are not going to be happy about. Your stance.
It's part of the job. It's part of the job. You have to make the best call, and sometimes residents and constituents are not going to be happy. And a lot of times, as a voter, you create these expectations of a candidate, right? And then something like that happens, and you become disappointed. But I believe that if transparency is offered from the beginning to end. Now, sometimes things happen in the middle of the process, and they can turn somebody's decision. In the case, me as a commissioner, if I was totally against something, but something happened halfway through the process and can convince me to vote otherwise, and I see a benefit for the city, and I see a benefit for the citizens of Brownsville, I will support it. I will support it. Unfortunately, we live in a time and era and in a country where ethics and I guess and legality don't necessarily run parallel all the time. And there's gray areas where there's some things that are perfectly legal, but at the same time perfectly unethical. And
Yes.
unfortunately, that's the way it runs in our country. And there's some possibly some killers out there free because a court of law found them not guilty. And as a city commissioner, there's going to be tough decisions that are going to be legal decisions, perhaps unethical. But at the end of the day, if whatever the situation is, it is within the scope of the law, and it's something that it's going to benefit the citizens in the city. It's going to be a tough one, but I will have to vote one way or the other.
Yep.
At the end of the day, my conscience is going to be, it's going to be clean, and I will vote for whatever is best. And also looking at the ethical component of it.
Yeah. There's a new generation of resident now that they are starting to look for real change. They definitely look for communication. They definitely look for people to come out and say, explain your decision. Why did you vote that way? Come out and talk to them frequently, whether it's on a live or a forum or a town hall. And I think that's been one problem that's plagued this administration and many previous administrations. For example, public comments. You know, at one point they got rid of the public comments or made them not public. They were just held in private, and or they weren't allowed to speak freely. I think that there's a thirst for change, for real legitimate change, and part of that is, you know, we want to hear from these people. Some people can't name all of the current commissioners. And then, you know, they were elected and then they were never seen. And I find that sketchy myself. And I want to hear from my leader. I want to hear from my mayor.
Of course.
When there's a crisis, when there's a freezing temperatures for days or for a week, I want to hear from my mayor every day. What's going on? What are you doing? What are we doing? What are you doing to help? What are you opening? So if I can give you a bit of a word of advice, people want to hear communication, whether it's good news or bad news. Obviously, better the good news than bad news, but at least something. Let them know that you are there and you are working on things or whatever the case may be. We'll take that to the next. We'll go to comments. What about a program like that for veterans here in Brownsville? And he's referring to like a housing assistance program or rent to own, where somebody can, you know, pay rent for X number of years, and that'll lead to ownership. Are you open for? You think that something like that is feasible?
I mean, there's programs already in place. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We just need to join efforts, find new ways of helping people, and not just let them go and venture out and go knock on a door and then get turned down and then that's it, they stop. I think we need to find a way to come up with probably a program that can follow through with this assistance. Like right now with the rental assistance, there's different programs. The city, the state, local churches are doing something. But some people, they go knock on the door and they get turned down and they get disappointed and they don't continue. And eventually they get evicted. Why? Because they were expecting to get help on the first door that they knocked on. And a lot of times all they need is, they're going through a difficult time, but all they need is someone to kind of push them a little. It's like, okay, so did you call here? Did you call there? Not necessarily do it for them, but be that support line to help, to tell them, okay, there's another assistance like 211, okay? We dial 211 for many different things. Maybe this can be one more that we can try to see at times of need. Right now, we're in a pandemic. We're in a very special situation that our generation had never experienced before. The freeze that we experienced a month ago was also unexpected, and it took a lot of us by surprise. A lot of things went wrong. I agree, but I am no one to point fingers at anybody. Leaders were trying to make the best they could with the resources they had at the time, and make this. Sometimes bad decisions are made, and you just gotta live with it. I think it was one of those events that kind of put us in a spotlight in a way that we live in a very high-tech world, and with all this technology, we couldn't do anything without power. So
Agreed.
I think we needed to go back to basics, to the point where we probably needed to literally get on a pickup truck and drive around neighborhoods and knock on people's doors and see if they were doing all right, if they needed anything, if there was any kind of emergency going on. You need a lot of manpower to do that. But that's the way it was done many years ago, before the internet or the phone existed.
Yeah, and the one other method, another thing that could have been done was open up some emergency shelters, for example, high school gymnasiums.
Of course.
You know, those things are the ones that had power anyway, and get people to come in out of the cold, charge their phone, you know.
And it was a pretty unpredictable, Manny. At Porter, for example, all I know is about Porter. I don't know about the other high schools, but the freeze caused some damage to the building. Some pipes just broke, and we couldn't go back to campus for another week, even after the freeze. So there was damage during the freeze, and I think there was even more damage after the freeze was over. And the repairing and the fixing was pretty much took a toll on our city, and a lot of people, houses, businesses, or schools got affected. So it was something that we're not prepared for. It was something that it's hard to prepare for, and we learn. And I think we can come up with a plan A, B, and C. Something like this was ever to happen again. Up north, I mean, you're in Chicago right now, and they know what to do. They've been there before, and it's not the end of the world. So we just need to come up with a better plan, and a better plan of communicating with our citizens.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there was not enough communication and not enough done until it was, you know, way too late. I think it's one of those things where, all right, this is happening. It's a reality. Everybody, let's meet right now. Let's get downtown and talk. And what can we open? What's not affected? Where can we send people? Do we have to bus people around and get them? There has to be, again, planning, like you said, is the way to do it. You have to plan for the worst situations. Just like I've used this example before, the airline has a plan for certain tragic events, and everyone knows their role, and there are 5 or 6 binders or backpacks, and if something tragic were to happen, certain people know, grab the backpack, that one's yours, and you go through it, and there's a list of what to do. you got to plan for the worst. And, it terrifies me that we're getting into hurricane season pretty soon.
Mhm.
Can you imagine if we get hit by one? I mean, a direct bad hit. That's going to be devastating. And I hope they have a plan for that. And I think people also need to plan on their own for their families and what they're going to do in the event. Okay, a couple more things got a few before you wrap up here.
All right.
If you were not elected, what would you do to try to help still work on ideas or issues that are important to you?
Well, let me tell you something. Back in 2010, in the school year 2009-2010, I started a project at Porter High School to help people with income taxes called Volunteer Income Tax Assistance.
Mm.
And I was a site coordinator for 10 years. In those 10 years, I trained students to become tax preparers.
Oh.
And I would open to the community. I would open the doors of Porter for the community to come in and get their taxes done for free. And I created a system that to this day, many high schools around the country are utilizing. I developed a model that it's been utilized not only at the high school level, but also by universities. And I wouldn't be surprised that even at the professional level. And my philosophy was, and is to this day, to empower the taxpayer by basically educating them in what an income tax is, an income tax return is, and educating them and making them understand that the IRS is not the enemy, and that our country depends on the taxes that we pay. That's how we get all the infrastructure that we have, by paying taxes, whether it is sales taxes, property taxes, you name it, taxes. Taxes make us what we are now. And at the current time, I opened up a little business, Mr. Velez Tax Service, and I have incredibly affordable prices. I start charging people $50. And in some cases, I try to help them out. But at the end of the day, I offer a product and a service that it's a holistic approach to the customer. I ask them about their financial situation, whether they're sending a kid to college or they're buying a house or they're doing something, if they're applying for Medicare or Medicaid or they're looking at disability. What is it that is going on in their lives at this current point, and see where they're going forward. Something that I've been doing for a long time, and people, they like the help that I provide to them, and they recommend me. And let me tell you, I didn't do it for money for a long time, and right now I am doing it to help. I'm doing it. I make a little bit of extra money. It's not a lot. It's not my main source of income. It doesn't even represent probably not even 5% of what I earn as a teacher. But I do it because I like helping. And I like to make people aware of what is it that they can do better, what is it that they can apply for. Because a lot of times I have come across customers that they're getting Social Security, but they don't know that they can get SSI. And I tell them, you should. With this stimulus that we've gotten, these 3 stimulus that we got, a lot of people were not getting the stimulus because they are on Social Security and they had not filed tax returns in 4, 5, 10 years. And some of them were not getting their money because there was no record of them. And then a lot of them, they still get checks, or they get a debit card that the government selected for them, a product that they were never part of deciding that they wanted to get. So that's one of the things I do, I've been doing, and I continue to do. I believe in recycling. I recycle. I go to the recycling center once a week or so. And that's another one of my, I guess, another topic, another project that I would like to get more involved with. I think our city we're filling up our landfill so quickly that it's pretty impressive out there. And I know that most of the citizens in Brownsville have never been to the landfill. They don't know what it's. We have mountains. People were making fun of Selena's show because there was mountains in Brownsville, and
Oh, yeah.
is that
Right.
we really have mountains of trash in the landfill, and it's another concern that I have. And I think in recycling we can do better. It can be a source of revenue for the city. It is, but I don't think we're doing enough, and we're allowing a third party to make probably a bigger portion of that revenue. So I'm trying to do better. I'm trying to be an example for my kids, and to love Brownsville and to appreciate what we have and to make it better. So even though it's at a very small scale, but I'm doing my part already, and I will continue to do so even if I don't get elected.
Very good. In closing, I will have you state your case. What makes you stand out from other candidates, and why should the public vote for Alberto Velez?
Well, I said it in a previous interview. I am from District 4. I was born in District 4. I grew up in District 4. I am a property owner in District 4. I don't necessarily work in District 4, but let me tell you, a lot of my students live in District 4. I shop around District 4. I go to the restaurants and the businesses in District 4, whether it's a restaurant, a mechanic, you name it. I try to do everything in my area. We are so blessed that we have from the zoo to a hospital to some of the best schools in town. We have all the way to the shopping centers, some of the best restaurants in town, whether privately or locally owned or franchise, and all the way to the Resaca de la Palma State Park. So a lot of things, great things, some of the greatest things in town are in District 4. I love District 4. I am, I guess, in favor of a lot of things that will make not only District 4 for the city a better place. I know a lot of people are concerned about downtown. I am in favor of promoting downtown and make it a better place. I am from Brownsville. I never left Brownsville, never considered leaving Brownsville, and I don't plan to go anywhere. And my kids are from Brownsville, born and raised here. They attend public schools in District 4. So I am an educator. I've been transparent. I was one of the first candidates to come out, and I was the first candidate in this in District 4 race to be certified as a candidate. And I came out stating where I live, what I do for a living. I have my website that is very transparent. I've been trying to hit every social network, social media that is out there, stating my point, stating why I'm doing this.
What is that website? You can say it there.
AlbertoVelez.com, and I have a website for school, which is mrvelez.com. It's a website of all my students and former students. I've been using that website for the past 10 years. And I am very transparent with my students as well. And I also have a little website for my business as well. So, and people ask me, are you bilingual? Yes, hablo español. Yo viví en Matamoros, fui a la escuela en Matamoros y fui a la escuela aquí en Brownsville, en Estados Unidos. Me considero americano, que tengo también mis raíces mexicanas. Tengo muchísima de mi familia. Mis padres son nacidos en México. Entonces, aquí estoy, aquí quiero estar, quiero ser alguien que puede traer cambio a nuestra ciudad, a nuestra comunidad, a nuestro distrito, y estoy listo para empezar. Sé que es mucho trabajo, sé que mi familia, tal vez va a haber momentos que me van a reclamar. Oye, papá, ya te tardaste mucho en esta junta, en este proyecto, pero me están apoyando, están detrás de mí. En mi campaña puse la foto con mi familia. Mi familia es mi motor, es los que me están ayudando, me están impulsando. Creen que estoy haciendo lo correcto y eso para mí es lo más importante. Saber que tengo su apoyo y que yo puedo brindar algo positivo, algo diferente y ver las cosas desde otra perspectiva y no un político como los que hemos tenido antes. So, gracias Manny, gracias a tu audiencia. Thank you guys, thank you for this opportunity to come out and state my point, talk about my campaign, talk about my projects and why I'm doing this. And I cannot thank you enough for this opportunity, Manny.
No, thank you for making yourself available to us. I think it's important that residents who are going to be voting know that who their candidates are and where they stand. And you are welcome to come back once we get closer to election time. Feel free to come back. And if your platform has changed or if there's something you want to update, we will have a second interview made available to you and to all the candidates who want to get up there one more time before election day.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mr. Velez, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Good night, everybody. Buenas noches a todos. Gracias.
Everyone, have a good evening. Thanks for hanging out with us. Any other questions you might have that you didn't get to ask, you can send them to my inbox, and we'll make sure that Mr. Velez gets those. Everyone, have a good night. We do have Mr. Valdez coming up, probably sometime early next week. We're trying to schedule something with him. And that was the other question. Your opponent. Who are you going up against?
There's Ben Nice, Pedro Cárdenas, and Joe Valdez.
Joe Valdez, yes, like I mentioned. And Ben Nice is the incumbent. He's the one who is there right now.
He is the incumbent. I guess he's a well-known former judge of our city.
Yep.
And then we have Pedro Cárdenas, a small business owner in our city. We are thankful that he's here and that he's, I guess, offering all those jobs in our city that we really need. And then there is Joe Valdez, a co-worker of mine. He's another educator. He works at the border. And those are the four options that the city of Brownsville has.
Yep. We're going to try to get Joe up here the next couple of days. It's just a scheduling thing. Thank you again, everyone. Mr. Velez will be in touch. And thank you for stopping by tonight.
All right, Manny. They can visit my website, and I have a page where they can submit any questions they may have. And probably tonight, I will have the links to all the different social media. There you go. That is the website, albertvelez.com. So they're right there. There's a page where they can contact me, type in their name and question, and I will gladly respond.
Excellent. Well done. Sir, again, thank you very much, and we will be in touch. Everyone have a great night. Don't forget to give my page a like if you haven't done so yet at Manny Behind the Mic on Facebook. Just give us a thumbs up. And on YouTube, give us a subscribe at youtube.com/Manny Behind the Mic. We do look forward to seeing you guys again in a couple days. We'll see what comes up tomorrow. We will let you know. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
All right. Thank you, guys. Good night.